Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday. It is June 2nd, 2019, and we are live tonight. We have a jam-packed show for you tonight. If you heard last Sunday's show, last Sunday I talked about the Mueller report. I talked about Representative Justin Amash in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who came out in support of impeachment. He's actually read the Mueller report, unlike a lot of people in Congress. And this past Wednesday, we saw that Robert S. Mueller III did a press conference at the Department of Justice and dropped a bomb, and all hell has broken loose since then. We've seen more Democrats get on board with starting at least an impeachment inquiry. We saw some of Donald Trump's supporters who had not read one word of the Mueller report, who only listened to conservative news, who had to admit that they did not know there were things negatively towards Donald Trump in the Mueller report. So on tonight's show, in the first hour, we're going to deal with Robert Mueller spoke for the first time about his investigation and increases the call for Trump to be impeached by Democrats. Impeaches the call for Trump to be impeached by Democrats. We see among the Democratic base, we see the call for impeachment of Trump being led by African American voters. African American voters are leading the call for Trump to be impeached. We'll also deal with what is an impeachment inquiry. What is an impeachment inquiry? What is impeachment? Impeachment does not mean removal from office. Impeachment is a formal process of filing charges, but there's steps in that process. So when I see polls saying maybe 47% of Americans say Trump should not be impeached and removed, the way they're asking the question is improper. Okay? Most Americans don't know what impeachment means. So you have to clarify this. And I would qualify the sample that you are asking the question to in the survey. First, I would ask them, have you read the Mueller report? Because I guarantee you most of the people that they're asking, should Trump be impeached? I guarantee you most of them haven't read the Mueller report. You had last week, we reported, Washington Post had an article, a little more than 25% of key members of the House of Representatives, well, actually key members in Congress, those are the key committees, the Senate Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, House Intelligence Committee, Senate Intelligence Committee. A little more than a quarter had not read the Mueller report, and some of them wouldn't even say whether or not they had read the Mueller report. So we'll talk about that. You don't want to miss that segment. Then also, this past week, NBCNews.com gave an update to a story that I have been covering, and this dealt with African American students who were depicted as slaves in a mock slave auction. This was in the state of New York. This was in Bronxville, the Chapel School in Bronxville. You've heard me talk about this before. I did a Facebook Live broadcast this past week dealing with this story. Well, the Attorney General's office, Letitia James, an African-American woman, her office did an investigation, and they found that this mock slave auction had a profoundly negative effect on all of the students, especially African-American students, had a profoundly negative effect on all of the students, especially African-American students. So we'll talk about that as well. Now, 2 weeks ago, we talked about African-American billionaire Robert F. Smith, who gave the commencement address at Morehouse College, HBCU Morehouse College for men, and he pledged to pay off the college debt of the approximately 400 members of the graduating class. This past week, Robert F. Smith has done something fantastic again. He's announced a new internship for 1,000 college sophomores of different ethnic backgrounds. So we'll talk about that as well. And then about 3 weeks ago, we talked about the State of Black America Report 2019, the State of Black America Report 2019 from the National Urban League. And what this report focuses on this year is the Russian intervention into the 2016 election, and specifically how African Americans were targeted by Russians with disinformation, and they were targeted to suppress the African American vote and either to turn them off from voting for Hillary Clinton or keep them from voting at all. Okay, so Mark Murriel was interviewed by Reverend Al Sharpton on Politics Nation. We're going to play that full interview with you because this is extremely important. When we listen to the heads of the intelligence agencies, whether it's Christopher Wray, director of the FBI, whether it's Dan Coats, director of national intelligence, whether it's others who are heads of the intelligence agencies, they're saying the Russians did not leave. They're saying the Russians are going to interfere with the 2020 election also. The Trump administration in general has done very little to fight against this. Number one, contrary to what Mick Mulvaney said on Meet the Press this morning on NBC with Chuck Todd. Two, we know that Senator Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader in the U.S. Senate, has blocked any measure, okay, to protect the 2020 elections from Russian interference. Okay, so we'll deal with that as well. And then June 1st, was the 98th anniversary of the attack on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, I did a 2-hour plus broadcast yesterday dealing with this, so check that out. That's on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. We'll talk a little bit about some of the history of Black Wall Street and now gentrification in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the Greenwood District, which was the business district where you had about 600 African-American owned businesses in the early 1900s. Now gentrification is a threat to the African Americans there. Okay, so we'll talk some about that. I have my DVD lecture dealing with the history of Black Wall Street at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It is a 2.5-hour presentation, and I go deep into the history of Black Wall Street, the origins of it as well. I deal with the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866, which ties into some of the early African-American landowners in Black Wall Street, because they were former slaves of the Creek Indians and descendants of former slaves of the Creek Indians. And we know Tulsa, Oklahoma was founded by Creek Indians around 1836, who get pushed off their land in the southeastern United States because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830, signed into law by President Andrew Jackson. So when you hear me talk about the 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans, the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians, who get pushed off their land in the southeastern United States and go over 1,000 miles into Oklahoma on what's known as the Trail of Tears, they took their black slaves with them also into Oklahoma. So all that history is connected. So visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have that lecture that I did on, it's on DVD and digital download, Black Wall Street from Destruction to the Resurrection of Economic Empowerment. And those watching on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, we just posted a link there on our Facebook fan page also. All right, so we have a jam-packed show for you now. A couple announcements here. Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, 10:30 a.m. at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. There'll be a celebration honoring the life and service of Kwame Kenyatta. We know Kwame Kenyatta was a longtime city councilman here in Detroit. I knew Kwame Kenyatta. He was a strong warrior fighting for African people, fighting for African Americans. This is taking place at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, 315 East Warren Avenue in Detroit. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. Cards and condolences may be forwarded to the Kenyatta family at 20501 Livernois Avenue, number 21457, Detroit, Michigan. Number 21457, Detroit, Michigan. 20501 Livernois Avenue, number 21457, Detroit, Michigan. Cards and condolences may be forwarded to the Kenyatta family there. Okay, and I think at the right.org, the website for the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, I think they have the information there also. And then Monday, June 3rd, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., I'll be over at the Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College. Amadeus Christ, director of the documentary Out of Darkness, which features Professor Kabahaya Watha Kamene, formerly known as Booker T. Coleman, Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, a number of scholars. He'll be doing a partial screening of the documentary Out of Darkness. It's taking place in the Cooper Room at Wayne County Community College District, Eastern Campus, and that is taking place, that's 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday, June 3rd, 2019. I'll be there also. I'll be on the panel discussion as well. That's free and open to the public, and we'll try to see if there's a flyer and get that up on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. We deal with a number of different topics here on the show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word KEMET, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter, or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, at our website, you can donate to the African History Network. Click on the yellow donate button right on the home page at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, or you can go to paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us to finance the research, finance our Sunday night show, pay for travel expenses, because I'm headed to Atlanta. I'll be in Atlanta June 14th through the 16th for the annual Juneteenth celebration at Mosley Park there that Bob Johnson puts on in Atlanta. That's Friday, June 14th through Sunday, June 16th. So I'll be there. I'll be speaking one of those days. I got to find out exactly which day I will be speaking. I'll have a vendor table there also. So I'll be back in Atlanta June 14th through the 16th, 2019. We'll get the information up at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, so this past Wednesday, May 20, I think that was May 28th. No, May 29th. This past Wednesday, May 29th, Robert S. Mueller III, okay, special counsel, did a press conference, a 9.5-minute press conference, and he dropped the hammer. It blew everybody away. And he formally resigned as special counsel, and then he talked about the Mueller report. He talked about the Mueller report, okay? Let's go to this clip.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. 2 years ago, the acting Attorney General asked me to serve as special counsel, and he created the special counsel's office. The appointment order directed the office to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. This included investigating any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. Now, I have not spoken publicly during our investigation. I'm speaking out today because our investigation is complete.
2 minutes to break.
The Attorney General has made the report on our investigation largely public. We are formally closing the special counsel's office, and as well, I'm resigning from the Department of Justice to return to private life. I'll make a few remarks about the results of our work. But beyond these few remarks, it is important that the office's written work speak for itself. Let me begin where the appointment order begins, and that is interference in the 2016 presidential election. As alleged by the grand jury in an indictment, Russian intelligence officers who were part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system. The indictment alleges that they used sophisticated cyber techniques to hack into computers and networks used by the Clinton campaign. They stole private information and then released that information through fake online identities and through the organization WikiLeaks. The releases were designed and timed to interfere with our election and to damage a presidential candidate. And at the same time, as the grand jury alleged in a separate indictment, a private Russian entity engaged in a social media operation where Russian citizens posed as Americans in order to influence an election. These indictments contain allegations and we are not commenting on the guilt or the innocence of any specific defendant. Every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. The indictments allege, and the other activities in our report describe, efforts to interfere in our political system. They needed to be investigated and understood, and that is among the reasons why the Department of Justice established our office. That is also a reason we investigated efforts to obstruct the investigation. The matters we investigated were of paramount importance. It was critical for us to obtain full and accurate information from every person we questioned.
Okay, pause it right
When
there.
a subject of
Okay, we're going to pause it right there. We're coming up on a break. We're going to go back to Robert Mueller after the break. This is the full press conference that he had. You listen to 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep, the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. We are live tonight. Right before the break, we were sharing an excerpt with you of Robert Mueller's press conference from Wednesday, May 28th. Okay, I think, or May 29th. Which day was it? Wednesday, May 29th. And we're going to go back to that in just a minute. I want to let you know that coming up June 8th, 2019, that will start the new online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This will be an 8-week online course that I will be teaching, usually on Saturdays. We'll do about 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. 8 weeks, 16 hours. This will be live, instructor-led by myself, Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for more information. We'll have the sign up there in a day or so. And this will be online, watch from around the world. You can ask questions. We'll deal with thousands of years of history. We'll deal with ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet. We'll deal with the Africans known as the Moors, who take the teachings from ancient Kemet and ancient Africa into Europe, bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. This leads to the transatlantic slave trade happening. This leads to Christopher Columbus setting sail August 3rd, 1492 on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And we see that what the Moors taught Europeans came back to kick us in the behind. We'll deal with the origins of the transatlantic slave trade, which has to be looked at chronologically and not episodically, so you don't want to miss this. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, 2019 edition. There have been new, the last time I did this class live was September 2017. There have been new archaeological discoveries since then, new information that has come out, so we're going to deal with that. So we'll have that up at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, probably in the next day or so. Okay, so I want to go back to this clip here from Robert Mueller, okay? And then we're going to break this down and analyze this. More Democrats have come on board since Mueller came out on Wednesday, May 29th, and said they support at least, the beginning of impeachment, which starts with an impeachment inquiry usually. Now, some people say, well, Democrats shouldn't impeach Robert Mueller, shouldn't impeach Trump because Republicans in the U.S. Senate are never going to find him guilty. Well, if you go look at Watergate, okay, we go study Watergate. Nobody thought that Richard Nixon would resign from office. Nixon was reelected to a second term in November 1973. He was highly popular, but the Watergate hearings changed everything. Most Americans at the beginning of the Watergate hearings were totally against impeachment. But when the witnesses were called, when White House counsel John Dean, when domestic policy advisor John Ehrlichman, when other witnesses were called and testified, this was on live TV, millions of people around the country saw it, and this changed the tide. This changed people's minds because they got to judge the witnesses, they got to hear the evidence, and then the majority of Americans were favorable towards impeaching Nixon. Now, he resigned August 9th, 1974, even though articles of impeachment were drawn up. First article of impeachment was obstruction of justice. Second article of impeachment was abuse of power. Third article of impeachment was contempt of Congress. And this is the same thing that applies to Trump. So Democrats cannot say we're going to abdicate our responsibility. They took an oath to the Constitution to defend the Constitution Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic. They can't say we're not going to do our job based upon Article 1 powers of the U.S. Constitution, which gives us oversight over the president, based upon Article 2 powers of the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 4, which gives them powers to impeach a president. They can't say we're not going to do our job in the House of Representatives because Republicans in the Senate are not going to do their job. No, you stand up for the rule of law, you stand up for the Constitution, and then you run on that in 2020. You say we stood up for the Constitution, we stood up for the rule of law, the Republicans shredded the Constitution. Now who do you want in office? You can't say because they're not going to do the right thing, we're not going to do the right thing. And what's going to happen is if they don't impeach this president, then what's going to happen is that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, you're going to have another president that's going to be even worse than Trump. They're going to collude with they're going to conspire, coordinate with a foreign power. They're going to have more instances of obstruction of justice. And then when people try to hold them accountable based upon Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, they're going to say, wait a second, when Democrats had control of the House of Representatives, they didn't impeach Trump. Why are you trying to impeach me? You cannot allow other people who don't want to do the right thing to absolve you of responsibility of you doing the right thing. Do your job. If you're not going to do your job, you shouldn't have a job. Let's go back to this clip.
Department of Justice established our office. That is also a reason we investigated efforts to obstruct the investigation. The matters we investigated were of paramount importance. It was critical for us to obtain full and accurate information from every person we questioned. When a subject of an investigation obstructs that investigation or lies to investigators, it strikes at the core of the government's effort to find the truth and hold wrongdoers accountable. Let me say a word about the report. The report has two parts, addressing the two main issues we were asked to investigate. The first volume of the report details numerous efforts emanating from Russia to influence the election. This volume includes a discussion of the Trump campaign's response to this activity, as well as our conclusion that there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. And in the second volume, the report describes the results and analysis of our obstruction of justice investigation involving the president. The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. We conducted that investigation and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime. The introduction to the volume 2 of our report explains that decision. It explains that under long-standing department policy, a president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Even if the charge is kept under seal and hidden from public view, that too is prohibited. The special counsel's office is part of the Department of Justice, and by regulation, it was bound by that department policy. Charging the president with a crime was therefore not an option we could consider. The department's written opinion explaining the policy makes several important points that further informed our handling of the obstruction investigation. Those points are summarized in our report, and I will describe two of them for you. First, the opinion explicitly permits the investigation of a sitting president because it is important to preserve evidence while memories are fresh and documents available. Among other things, that evidence could be used if there were co-conspirators who could be charged now. And second, the opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing. And beyond department policy, we were guided by principles of fairness. It would be unfair to potentially accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge. So that was Justice Department policy. Those were the principles under which we operated, and from them we concluded that we would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime. That is the office's final position, and we will not comment on any other conclusions or hypotheticals about the president. We conducted an independent criminal investigation and reported the results to the Attorney General, as required by department regulations. The Attorney General then concluded that it was appropriate to provide our report to Congress and to the American people. At one point in time, I requested that certain portions of the report be released. The Attorney General preferred to make the entire report public all at once, and we appreciate that the Attorney General made the report largely public, and I certainly do not question the Attorney General's good faith in that decision. Now, I hope and expect this to be the only time that I will speak to you in this manner. I am making that decision myself. No one has told me whether I can or should testify or speak further about this matter. There has been discussion about an appearance before Congress. Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report. It contains our findings and analysis and the reasons for the decisions we made. We chose those words carefully, and the work speaks for itself. And the report is my testimony. I would not provide information beyond that which is already public in any appearance before Congress. In addition, access to our underlying work product is being decided in a process that does not involve our office. So beyond what I've said here today and what is contained in our written work, I do not believe it is appropriate for me to speak further about the investigation or to comment on the actions of the Justice Department or Congress. And it's for that reason I will not be taking questions today as well. Now, before I step away, I want to thank the attorneys, the FBI agents, the analysts, the professional staff who helped us conduct this investigation in a fair and independent manner. These individuals, who spent nearly 2 years with the Special Counsel's Office, were of the highest integrity. And I will close by reiterating the central allegation of our indictments, that there were multiple, systematic efforts to interfere in our election. And that allegation deserves the attention of every American. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
And I will close by reiterating the central allegation of our indictments, that there were multiple systematic efforts to interfere in our election, and that allegation deserves the attention of every American. Okay, this is what Robert Mueller said. Now, you can go to New York Times, because I have that. So that is the full video. I also have the full transcript printed up as well. I've read through the transcript also of his press conference. Go to NewYorkTimes.com, search for a full transcript of Mueller's statement on Russia investigation. Full transcript of Mueller's statement on Russia investigation. And those watching on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and on 910 AM Superstation fan page as well, we'll post the link there as well to this article, and it has the full transcript also. Okay, so that was this past Wednesday, right? May 29th. All hell broke loose from there. Mueller said this volume includes, now keep in mind the Mueller report is broken up into 2 volumes, and here is the Mueller report from the Washington Post. You can get it from Amazon.com. It's about $10. It's the full 448 pages, plus it has related materials from the Washington Post as well. Okay, you can get the PDF of it for free from NBCnews.com. New York Times has a searchable version of the Mueller report as well. I've looked at both of those. But Mueller, in this press conference, he said this volume includes, referring to Well, he said, let me say a word about the report. The report has two parts addressing the two main issues we were asked to investigate. The first volume of the report details numerous efforts emanating from Russia to influence the election. This volume includes a discussion of the Trump campaign's response to this activity, as well as our conclusion that there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. Now, as I said before, you read page 2, volume 1 of the Mueller report, they did not investigate collusion because collusion has no legal standing. They investigated criminal conspiracy. Okay? He said there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. He didn't say there was no evidence. He said there was insufficient evidence. Just like if a bank account has insufficient funds, that doesn't mean it doesn't have any funds. It just means it has insufficient funds. He said, in the second volume, dealing with obstruction of justice, the report describes the results and analysis of our obstruction of justice investigation involving the president. Okay, so he also said something that a lot of people pointed to. And a lot of people didn't know because they didn't read the Mueller report, and they listened to right-wing media. Mueller, referring to obstruction of justice, he said, and as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president, referring to Trump, clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime, because he was following the Office of Legal Counsel 1973 opinion, the memo stating that a sitting president cannot be indicted, cannot be charged with a crime. They need to throw that out because that's from the Nixon era, okay? And we know Nixon was a crook. So 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. So this past week was explosive and revealing regarding the Mueller report. So we saw on Wednesday, May 29th, Special Counsel Robert F. Mueller III held a press conference at the Department of Justice and announced his job was complete and that he was resigning as counsel. He then talked about some key parts of the 448-page Mueller report. What he said is echoing throughout the country and exposing people who have not read the Mueller report to truths that have now caused more than 50 Democrats, and according to the article from NBCnews.com, full list, over 50 House members favor starting Trump impeachment inquiry. It is now at 52 Democrats in the House of Representatives, and one Republican, Justin Amash, Republican of Michigan, who represents Grand Rapids. They're all saying that they should at least start with an impeachment inquiry. Last week, when we did the show, last Sunday, it was 38. It was 38 Democrats last Sunday. Now it's at least 52. Okay, so Democrats are in their districts this past week because of the Memorial Day recess. And they are talking to their constituents. This interaction is causing more and more House Democrats to call for an impeachment inquiry to start. It is African American voters who are speaking the loudest, as Representative Dwight Evans told the New York Times on May 30th, 2019. Name of that article is Black Voters Challenge House Members, Why is Trump Still in Office? Black voters challenge House members. Why is Trump still in office? This is a fantastic article from the New York Times, May 30th, 2019. Now, Representative Dwight Evans has called for Trump to be impeached long before Robert Mueller issued his report. But he was not surprised. Okay, Representative Dwight Evans said, quote, "The issue that I hear constantly here is, quote, we sent you for one reason only, to get rid of the president, right? Why haven't you gotten rid of him yet?" End quote. This is what, now he represents a district in Philadelphia. This is what his constituents are telling him. This past week, you had members of the House of Representatives. They were in their district. The Congress is on recess, and they were holding town hall meetings. Representative Justin Amash this past Tuesday held a town hall meeting up in Grand Rapids. Others are doing this, and they're talking to their constituents, okay? And their constituents are asking, what are you going to do about Trump? Now, Saturday, June 1st, 2019, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi delivered a speech to the California Democratic Party State Convention, and she drew loud cries of impeach, impeach. This is what the audience was saying from attendees as Nancy Pelosi mentioned Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report and ticked through evidence in the probe of Russian interference in the 2016 election that suggested that Donald Trump obstructed justice. The crowd is saying impeach, impeach. You tell us what he did. You said last week that he's involved in the cover-up. Okay, so what you gonna do about it? Now, Robert Mueller talked about the Russian intervention in the 2016 election in Volume 1 of the Mueller report, and he stated it was to benefit one candidate and hurt another one. He talked about this, you just heard him talk about that in the press conference. Quote, as alleged, Robert Mueller said, quote, as alleged by the grand jury in an indictment, Russian intelligence officers who are part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system. The indictment alleges that they use sophisticated cyber techniques to hack into computers and networks used by the Clinton campaign. They stole private information and then released that information through fake online identities and through the organization WikiLeaks. Well, do you remember during the last 30 days of the 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump mentioned WikiLeaks at least 164 times as reported by thinkprogress.org? The last 30 days, at least 164 times on the campaign trail and in interviews and in tweets. Donald Trump said, did you read WikiLeaks today? I love WikiLeaks. This is what WikiLeaks had to say. You've got to read WikiLeaks. This is what he said in the last 30 days. Then after he won, because of the Electoral College, because he lost the popular vote by 2.8 million votes, then after he won, he tweeted WikiLeaks had nothing to do with it. So why did you mention WikiLeaks 164 times then? So Trump tweeted on Thursday, May 30th, 2019, the day after Robert Mueller did his press conference at the Department of Justice. He tweeted in response to Robert Mueller's press conference, Trump said, quote, Russia, Russia, Russia. That's all you heard at the beginning of this witch hunt hoax. And now Russia has disappeared because, listen to this very quickly. This is very carefully. This is what Trump tweeted. He said, and now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. Trump just admitted Russia helped him get elected. He tweeted this. This just happened this past Thursday, May 30th, 2019. At 7:57 a.m., he tweeted this. Trump tweeted, and now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. He admitted Russia helped him get elected. He goes on to say it was a crime that didn't exist. Really? So now the Dems and their partner, the fake news media, he goes on to lie. CBSNews.com has an article about this. You can read it, entitled "Trump appears to say Russia helped him win the presidency, then walks back claim." He admitted it. Quote, now, Robert Mueller went on to talk about in his press conference, he said, the releases were designed and timed to interfere with our election and to damage a presidential candidate. And at the same time, as the grand jury alleged in a separate indictment, a private Russian entity engaged in a social media operation where Russian citizens posed as Americans in order to influence an election. These indictments contain allegations, and we are not commenting on the guilt or innocence of any specific defendant. Every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. But we can also look at the evidence Facebook has turned over to Congress, because Congress is investigating this with Facebook as well. And Facebook turned over 3,500 ads taken out by Russians. They spent $100,000. It reached about 126 million people. Mueller went on to say, quote, the first volume of the report details numerous efforts emanating from Russia to influence the election. The volume includes a discussion of the Trump campaign's response to this activity, as well as our conclusion that there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. Okay, now, there were over 140 contacts that the Trump campaign had with Russians. Why so many contacts with Russians, and why do so many people lie about it? Now, if you look at page 2 of volume 1 of the Mueller report, and Mueller specifically talks about how they did not investigate collusion. So all the Donald Trump supporters calling in the radio shows saying the Mueller report said no collusion, that's a lie. No, it didn't say no collusion, because they didn't investigate collusion, because collusion is not a legal term. On page 2, volume 1, Mueller said, but collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in the United States Code, nor is it a term of art in federal criminal law. For those reasons, the office's focus in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined by federal law. They investigated criminal conspiracy. They found insufficient evidence of criminal conspiracy that they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They didn't say there was no evidence. They said insufficient evidence. But what threshold did they have to meet to prove criminal conspiracy? Now, Mueller goes on to say, in connection with that analysis, we address the factual question whether members of the Trump campaign, quote unquote, coordinated, a term that appears in the appointment order. This was the order of the charge of what they were to investigate, with Russian election interference activities. Like collusion, coordination does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. We understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. An agreement. What they're saying is there's insufficient evidence that an agreement existed. They couldn't find one, but they go on to show how the Russian government and the Trump campaign operated in a mutually beneficial manner. He's just saying there's insufficient evidence to prove that an agreement existed between the two of them. But that doesn't mean there was no agreement, especially when you see them coordinating, working in a mutually beneficial manner. He said that requires more than two parties to prove criminal conspiracy, to be able to show that an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference existed. He said that requires more than two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. He's saying just because they operate in a mutually beneficial manner over and 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 over again, he's saying that's not enough to prove an agreement. All right? But when you understand what Mueller is doing in his press conference, he's leaving it up to Congress based upon their Article 1 oversight powers, based upon their Article 2 powers to impeach a president. He's leaving it up to them. Okay? Mueller goes on to say, and second, the opinion says that this is in his press conference. I'm reading from the transcript of his press conference. He said, and second, the opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing. That's called impeachment. That's the impeachment process. Mueller is telling Congress to do your job. He said, don't look to me to save you. You got to do your job. So, now we saw this past Tuesday, May 29th, Representative Justin Amash, Republican of Michigan, hold a town hall meeting in his district to talk about why he has called for the impeachment process to start. Now, he said, contrary to a lot of other Republicans in Congress, he said he actually read the Mueller report. Now, he was met by many supporters and some detractors. When you listen to the detractors, it was very clear that they did not read the Mueller report. So you have to ask the question, what the hell are they talking about? Now, the Hill.com reported on May 28th, Representative Justin Amash tweeted, he doubled down on his accusation that Attorney General William Barr, quote unquote, deliberately misrepresented the contents of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on the investigation into Russian interference. Okay? Justin Amash, who has sharply criticized Trump and last week became the first congressional Republican, the week before last, the first congressional Republican to call for his impeachment, accused Attorney General William Barr of selectively quoting Mueller, in the summary he released prior to making public the investigation's full redacted report. Justin Amash tweeted, as a result of Barr's March 24th letter, the public and Congress were misled. Okay? He went on to say, subsequent statements and testimony to help build the president's false narrative that the investigation was unjustified. Okay. He also said that Mueller's report says he chose not to decide whether Trump broke the law because there's an official DOJ opinion that indicting a sitting president is unconstitutional. Barr's letter doesn't mention those issues. Barr's March 24th letter, his 4-page summary, William Barr's 4-page summary. Barr's letter doesn't mention those issues when explaining why Mueller chose not to make a prosecutorial decision. He instead selectively quotes Mueller in a way that makes it sound falsely as if Mueller's decision stemmed from legal factual issues specific to Trump's actions, end quote. So, Republican Representative Justin Amash is making a better case for impeachment of a Republican president than most Democrats are making. He's making a better argument. I follow him on Twitter. I started following him on Twitter when he came out and when he first posted about his conclusions. He's making a better argument for impeachment of Trump than most Democrats are making. Now, GOP Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, he has talks with a southern drawl. He sounds really ignorant also many times. He called out Democrats who have voiced support for impeaching Trump, saying, quote, if you want to do it, go hard or go home. He told Democrats to go to Amazon.com, and buy a spine, buy a backbone. He said, if you're not going to do it, let us get back to work. Now, it's interesting. He's a Republican senator from a former Confederate state, Louisiana. Now, it's interesting that he mentions getting back to work. Because when you look at govtrack.us, you see that since January 3rd, 2019, when the 116th Congress was sworn in, Democrats have passed 148 pieces of legislation in the House of Representatives, but Republicans in the Senate have only passed 17 pieces of legislation. ABCnews.go.com had an article about this. I saw this on govtrack.us first, because you can go there, govtrack.us, and you can research all the bills that Congress passes and debates on. Democrats in the House of Representatives have passed 148 pieces of legislation since January 3rd. Keep in mind, they were sworn in during Donald Trump's 35-day partial government shutdown. Republicans in the U.S. Senate have only passed 17 pieces of legislation. But you got this idiot, Senator John Kennedy, saying, let us get back to work. What work? Oh, you mean confirming unqualified, very ultra-conservative white male judges for the federal bench. That's what you're talking about. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We're coming up on a break in a couple of minutes. When we come back, we're going to the phone lines. We'll go to John and whoever else is on the phone lines. And also, keep in mind, there are over 900 former federal prosecutors who have signed a petition at medium.com who said if Trump was any other American, any other U.S. citizen, he would be charged with multiple felony counts. So you have to ask the question, what are Democrats waiting for? Mueller's not going to save you. If you bring him in front of the House of Representatives, which they should, he's going to read from the Mueller report. You have to get a backbone. You have to get a spine. You have to do your job. If you're not going to do your job, you shouldn't have a job. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Now, when we come back, I want to play the clip from Representative Benny Thompson, who heads up the House Homeland Security Committee, and he's changed his mind on impeachment. Because, one, of Mueller's press conference, two, because he's been in his district talking to black people. Okay? You don't want to miss that interview. All right. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. Click on the yellow donate button there right on the home page. Also, you can order my DVD lecture dealing with the history of Black Wall Street. The DVD is on sale $10. The digital download is $8. You can support the African History Network there. That helps us to finance our Sunday night show. Keep doing the research. Stay on the air. Pay the bills. Pay when I have to go out of town, like I'm headed to Atlanta June 14th through the 16th at the huge 3-day Juneteenth celebration that takes place there also. Okay? All right. You listen to the African History Network show on 910 AM Superstation The Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM The Superstation The Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. Give us a call, 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600. In the first hour, I played for you the entire press conference that former Special Counsel Robert Mueller had. We were breaking down what he was saying and his call for Congress to do their job and impeach the president. Okay, do their job and impeach the president. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute here. I want to remind you that coming up June 3rd, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College District. I think that's 5901 Connor Street. Amadeus Christ, director of the documentary Out of Darkness. He'll be doing a partial screening of it. It's open to the public 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. He's going to deal with the segment dealing with hip-hop and how hip-hop influences our people. This is open to the public. Come on out. I'll be speaking there as well. 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. is taking place in the Cooper Room. And Out of Darkness deals with thousands of years of African history, African American history. Professor James Small in the documentary, Dr. Claude Anderson, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Tony Browder. So come on out. That's free and open to the public. Also, Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, 10:30 a.m. at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. There'll be a celebration honoring the life and legacy of former City Council member Kwame Kenyatta. Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, 10:30 a.m. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. And also Saturday, June 8th, at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. My friend historian Jamon Jordan is going to do a lecture you don't want to miss entitled Detroit Street Names of Enslavers of Africans. Detroit Street Names of Enslavers of Africans. Jefferson, Washington, Cass, Macomb, Hamtramck, DeQuinder, Livernois, Bobian, Brush, Grosbeck, McDougal. What did they all have in common? They're not just white men, but they were former slave. They were slave owners also. This is free and open to the public in the General Motors Theater Saturday, June 8th, 2019. And also from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. He'll be doing a guided tour as well. So visit the website, theright.org/events, theright.org/events for more information. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to John, line 1. Hey, John, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from the east side of Detroit, Hotel, and thank you 1,000% for educating the public, man. What you did just a while ago, man, I know they can go get it now. I know they got to get it now. If they don't, I feel bad for them. Hotel, he's just a lying self-sucker, and that's all you can say about him. And he invited the Russians in, so I don't know.
Absolutely.
Why you keep lying to Russians who have to do with it? Hotel, I just wanted to tell you to have some the bumpers, the Facebook, and the Mueller, and the hip-hop guys, get on their phone and call Washington and call their congressman and try to impeach them immediately and so forth. And stop messing around and get some spine, as you said, as a backbone to fight for the tax credit for the citizens of this country.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Miller gave them the page what they had to do and so forth. And I just want to say thank you, and I know it wasn't want to get on, but just keep up the work, and you broke it down where anybody can understand and so forth.
Right. Okay, John. All right, thanks.
Keep up the good work, man.
All right, man. Thanks for calling. Okay, so the number to the congressional switchboard is area code 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. 3121. That's the number to the congressional switchboard. You can get any member of the U.S. House of Representatives. There's 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, 100 seats in the U.S. Senate. Okay. Normally, when you call, you'll get a automated service, and they'll ask for your zip code. The last time I called, I got a live person, so it kind of threw me off a little bit. So just be prepared. You may get a live person. You want to be courteous. You don't want to curse. You don't want to yell and scream. But you want to tell your member of Congress, if they haven't already decided that they should start an impeachment inquiry, you want to tell them that they need to start the impeachment inquiry. To tell them Mueller laid. First of all, you can also ask them, have you read the Mueller report? Now you'll probably get a staffer, right, in the representative's office, okay? But you want to ask, has this person read the Mueller report? And let them know that Mueller laid out at least 10 instances of possible obstruction of justice, okay? Read the article from thinkprogress.org, thinkprogress.org. Mueller detailed 10 times Trump acted to derail the Russian investigation and protect himself. Okay, this lays it out here, but this is straight from the Mueller report. Trump directly asked the FBI to let good guy Lieutenant General Michael Flynn get away with crimes, and we know Michael Flynn pleaded guilty as well. Okay, and he hasn't been sentenced yet, so he's still free. We know also Mueller laid out how Trump fired the FBI director and said he did it to sabotage the Russia investigation. He stated this May 11th, 2017, in an interview with Lester Holt, seen by millions of people. He admitted it there. So just as Trump admitted on May 30th, 2019, on Twitter, okay, just as he admitted that Russia helped him, okay, when he said that, let me get the exact quote here. He said, and now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. Okay, just as he self-incriminated himself there, he did the same thing in the interview with Lester Holt. So about 3 weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi said that Trump self-incriminates. She's correct. That's why I hope he keeps tweeting. Just keep tweeting. Quit tweet all day. See, other people say he needs to stop tweeting. No, dumbass, go ahead and keep tweeting because he's incriminating himself. Okay? Trump manipulated his son's statement about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting. We know Michael Cohen was found guilty of lying to Congress about the Trump Tower meeting, and Michael Cohen went back in front of the House of Representatives. Elijah Cummings heads up that House Oversight Committee, and he came clean, and he also provided corroborating evidence of allegations he was making as well. Trump pressured intelligence officials to interfere in the investigation. Trump repeatedly pushed then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to yank Mueller's chain. These are all instances of obstruction of justice. Trump tried to thwart Manafort's cooperation with the Mueller investigation. Trump instructed White House counsel Don McGahn to fire Mueller. And then he instructed Don McGahn to lie about being instructed to fire Mueller, to lie to the press about it. Okay? He then told a lawyer to lie about it. Don McGahn revealed all this when he was interviewed for 30 hours by the Mueller team. Trump instructed Corey Lewandowski to deliver a message to Attorney General Jeff Sessions to curb the Mueller investigation. Trump influenced Michael Cohen's testimony on the Moscow Project. These are at least 10 instances of alleged obstruction of justice that Mueller laid out. Now, I guarantee you, if President Obama did 1/20th of this, he'd be convicted and removed from office in the U.S. Senate. There would be no debate. There would be no vacillation. There would be no confusion on Republicans on what to do about this. They impeached Bill Clinton December 19th, 1998 for lying about an affair with a White House intern. They impeached them over that. If Obama did 1/20th of this, there would be no confusion. Okay? Let's go to back to the phone lines. Let's go to line 2. Carol. Hey, Carol, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for calling. Tell us where you're calling from.
Good evening, Michael. I'm calling from the deep west side of Michigan.
Okay.
Out in Oakland County.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm about to move again, but back to the east side. But
okay.
Thank you so much for playing that Mueller report.
Yes.
Because like I already knew, that this president is guilty because he's a con man. We got a con man as a president. I was married to a con man.
Okay.
So don't you think I know what
right.
a con man is?
Right.
Okay. And as a leader of this United States, and then he wants to take us backwards. You know, that right there, he is crooked, as crooked can get. The whole world is looking at our country like we stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's going to take, I hope that the Republican Senate, they're the ones that's holding up everything for Trump. That's why Trump ain't resigned or nothing.
Well, it hasn't gone to the Senate yet. The impeachment starts in the House Judiciary Committee. It hasn't gone to the Senate yet.
Oh, but see, that's the big holdup. See, Congress, they got to move on the impeachment,
Right?
Because that Senate, they're gonna hold it up some more. You know, that's what Trump is banking on. You know, see, and to me, I think what they're doing is waiting to the 2020 election, and the people will tell them what time it is in 2020 when they go to the polls, because, you know, we all know that this president is wrong as two left shoes.
Right. All right, Carol.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for calling. Keep listening. So we can't wait till the 2020 election. Okay. They have to take action now. They have to start the impeachment inquiry. Now, read the article from the New York Times. How impeachment works and what you need to know about it. How impeachment works and what you need to know about it. Okay, this is from May 30th, 2019 by Charlie Savage and Nicholas Fandos. Some Democrats say opening an impeachment inquiry could help the House overcome the president's blockade of its investigations, but others say that could backfire politically. So very quickly, they lay out what is impeachment, okay? So the Constitution permits Congress to remove presidents before their terms are up if enough lawmakers vote to say that they committed, quote, treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors, end quote. Now, these don't have to be crimes that there would be against a federal statute or necessarily crimes that would be punishable in a regular court. They don't have to be that. This is based upon what the House Judiciary Committee determines rises to this level. Okay? And this is based upon Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. Now, the House of Representatives can impeach a president, which is like an indictment. Okay? Impeachment is basically filing of formal charges. Okay? And they can do this by a simple majority vote. So it'll take 218 votes in the House of Representatives to impeach a president. But then the trial is held in the U.S. Senate. The trial is held in the U.S. Senate. The U.S. senators, there are 100 of them, they are the jurors. It takes 2/3 or 67 U.S. senators to convict a president in the Senate. The judge that presides over the hearing in the Senate is the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, after a trial in the U.S. Senate, 2/3 of the upper chamber would have to vote to convict to remove the president. Only 3 presidents have been subjected to an impeachment proceeding. 2 were impeached by the House of Representatives, but acquitted by the U.S. Senate. That's President Andrew Johnson in 1868, Bill Clinton in 1998 and 99, which we talked about, and the third was Richard Nixon. But Nixon resigned, even though articles of impeachment were drawn up. Nixon was resigned August 9th, 1974, to avoid being impeached, to avoid being put on trial. Okay? And personally, I've said before, going back to January 2017, I said I think Trump is going to be forced to resign from office just as Nixon was forced to resign from office. Now, what is an impeachment inquiry? What is an impeachment inquiry? Before the House of Representatives decides whether to impeach a president, the House Judiciary Committee first can hold hearings to investigate whether that step is warranted. This can include calling witnesses, collecting documents, and debating whether the behavior in question constitutes an impeachable offense, which the Constitution only it's ambiguous in the Constitution how they define what an impeachable offense is. Okay, it's very ambiguous. It's Article 2, Section 4. So many of them are calling for an impeachment inquiry. NBCnews.com has an article from last updated May 30th, 2019. Full list, over 50 House members favor starting Trump impeachment inquiry. It includes 11 Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee, as well as chairs of various House committees. Okay, so read this at NBCnews.com, and as the last update, there are 52 Democrats and in the House of Representatives and 1 Republican. Okay, so when we look at the impeachment inquiry, this is how the impeachment process would usually start. You have a calling of witnesses. They can have open hearings. They can have televised hearings. Okay, so the American citizens who have not read the Mueller report, because most of them haven't read it and not going to read it, they can hear the evidence. You have a collecting of documents and debating whether the behavior in question constitutes an impeachable offense. Now, the inquiry will culminate in the House Judiciary panel either voting to recommend that the full House of Representatives, the 435 members, a vote on one or more articles of impeachment, or deciding not to make any such recommendation. Okay, so usually when you see the House committees debate, or even the Senate committees, they'll vote within that committee whether or not to proceed to a full vote in the Senate or the House. The same thing would happen here. Now, some say Senator Mitch McConnell won't allow impeachment hearings. Okay, if that's the case, if he wants to be an obstructionist like he is, we just saw him this past week say that if a Supreme Court justice passed away or stepped down or something like that, well, in 2020, it's a presidential election year, what would you do? He said we will fill it. Okay, this is why Mitch McConnell is up for re-election in 2020. He must be voted out of office. He's got to go. Senator Lindsey Graham is up for re-election in 2020. Senator of the House Intelligence Committee. He must go. They have to be voted out of office. These are obstructionists. Democrats have to take back control of the U.S. Senate. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I see who the obstructionists are. I see where most of the bad policies at a federal level are coming from. It's coming from Republicans. Okay, so if Senator Mitch McConnell wants to be an obstructionist and not hold impeachment hearings, then you run against him on that and say, we stood up for the Constitution, we stood up for the rule of law, he shredded the Constitution, he's an obstructionist, he's working on behalf of Russia. Because it's clear the coordination, it's clear that the Trump campaign and Russia, the Russian government, were operating in a mutually beneficial manner. He doesn't want to do anything to hold them accountable for this. He's an obstructionist. He has to go. You run on standing up for the Constitution, standing up for the rule of law, and Mitch McConnell is the antithesis of that. He's the antithesis of that. Not only that, when you look at going back to the 2016 election, right? The Obama administration wanted to make a bipartisan statement regarding the Russian intervention, and they wanted Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan to sign on to that. They refused. They said, we're not going to help you with this. They refused to do this. This is before the election. Okay? So you look at a pattern, you look at a pattern of Mitch McConnell's actions. It's aiding and abetting the Russians. It's aiding and abetting Trump. Who was that? Washington Post had an article about that. Let me try to preserve intelligence. Let me see. Hackers. I'll try to pull up that article, but Google that. Mitch McConnell told President Obama, no, we're not going to help you. They wanted to get bipartisan support to come out in opposition. This is before the election. Okay? Why did Mitch McConnell do this? This is why he must be voted out of office. Now, what is the process for opening an impeachment inquiry? The full House voted for resolutions directing the House Judiciary Committee to open the inquiries into Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton. But it is not clear whether that step is strictly necessary because impeachment proceedings against other officials, like a former federal district court judge in 1989, began at the committee level, congressional aides say. Now, in 1998, the Bill Clinton resolution granted the House Judiciary Committee certain powers to subpoena for documents and testimony. Since then, since 1998, however, House rules have been changed to enhance the subpoena powers of Representative Jerry Nadler, who is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Democrat, and so that step may now be redundant. The question matters because at this stage, vulnerable Democrats in swing districts may prefer to avoid taking a public stand on the issue of impeachment or an impeachment inquiry. On the other hand, the committee may not want to test whether it can open a presidential impeachment inquiry without a House vote, because that would give Trump's lawyers another argument to make in any court battles over Democratic subpoenas. They have to do their job. They have to stand up for the rule of law. If you're not going to do your job, you shouldn't have a job. Now, Representative Benny Thompson, Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, who chairs the House Homeland Security Committee. He was interviewed by Chris Hayes on All In with Chris Hayes, MSNBC. This was from Friday, May 31st, 2019. Take a listen. Let's go to this clip.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller's statement today
was
an implicit rejection of Attorney General William Barr's depiction of the Mueller report.
Let's go to 4. Voters
sort of point by point. Here's Attorney General Barr.
Voters convinced House Democrat to support impeachment.
That brings me to another initiative from the House that may very well die in the Senate, which has been the topic at the front of minds, I think, of many this week for the House Democratic Caucus, and that is the matter of impeachment. Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Jimmy Kimmel last night, once again, articulating her vision of why it doesn't make sense to begin a formal impeachment inquiry, why it makes sense to go slowly and carefully in her mind. You're a member of leadership, you are a chair of a committee, and you have come out, I believe, this week, if I'm not mistaken, in favor of beginning a formal impeachment inquiry. What changed your mind? How'd you get there?
Well, very easy. I've been in my district for over a week. I've traveled to about 18 counties, over 700 miles. I've talked to a lot of people. And to the person, everybody said, what are you all going to do about President Trump? They sometimes call him another name, but clearly they are disappointed in his leadership. Some of them will even tell me, Chris, you know, I don't even want my children or grandchildren to watch the president on TV anymore. He doesn't set the standard as Americans that a president should. So I heard enough, and up until I came home this weekend, I had resisted moving forward, but you know, I represent this district, and I listened to the people, and I heard them.
Congressman, I got to tell you, that is really interesting to me for this reason. Some of the conventional wisdom that I think has been communicated and I think is believed by many people in your caucus and in leadership is that impeachment is an esoteric concern, or it's an obsession of people that are political junkies, but not real people, you know, living their lives, that they're detached. But what you're telling me is that you went home to your district and talked to your actual constituents, and that's what changed your mind.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, it didn't matter whether I was in the hole in the wall or the finest restaurant in my district. People would come up and talk to me about this. And let me tell you, it bothers them that here we are, the greatest country in the world, being led by somebody who won't tell the truth. They are clearly upset that our values as Americans have been compromised by this president.
The final question for you, and I really do appreciate you taking time tonight. Do you anticipate, as everyone comes back, that conversations being different starting Monday because your colleagues have had perhaps similar experiences?
Well, you know, this is how things get done. People talk. People listen to constituents. I don't think it will be any different when we get back on Monday. People will do that. I look forward to it. I'll be in a meeting with the speaker shortly when I get there, and I'm sure people will ask me how I arrived at a position. I'm happy to tell them. And again, since I've announced it, I've not had anything but compliments from people calling and say, I'm glad you're taking this stand.
All right, Congressman Benny Thompson of the great state of Mississippi, thank you so much for making time tonight.
Thank you.
For more on where this impeachment debate is headed, next I'm joined by MSNBC political analyst Michelle.
Okay, so you can watch that entire clip because Chris Hayes went to his panel after that. We don't have time for that. That is from Friday, May 31st, 2019, MSNBC.com. Voters convinced House Democrat to support impeachment. Voters convinced House Democrat to support impeachment. That's from All In with Chris Hayes. And what Benny Thompson said is also what New York Times, when they interviewed Representative Dwight Evans, this is what Dwight Evans said also. Now, Dwight Evans had already called for the impeachment of Trump. But if we look at this article from May 30th, 2019, entitled Black Voters Challenge House Members. Why is Trump still in office? Okay? And the article says now the Representative Dwight Evans represents a district in Philadelphia. And the article says moments after the special counsel Robert S. Mueller III wrapped up his appearance at the Department of Justice on Wednesday, Representative Dwight Evans stepped out of his district office in a black working class neighborhood here to visit with local business owners. They had one question on their minds. Why is President Trump still in office? So Representative Dwight Evans, who's a Democrat who had been calling for Donald Trump to be impeached long before Robert Mueller issued his report, was not surprised. He said, quote, the issue that I hear constantly here is quote, we sent you for one reason only, to get rid of the president, right? Why haven't you gotten rid of him yet? End quote. Now, in cities around the country, African-American Democrats like Representative Dwight Evans and other House members who represent majority black districts are hearing much of the same from their African-American constituents, as well as from white liberals who have moved into the nation's urban core. That's called gentrification. They don't want to say it's gentrification. That's called gentrification. Now, those views are translating into action on Capitol Hill, where House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is under increasing pressure from a rank and file to hurry up her time frame for what many see as an inevitable impeachment inquiry. A number of prominent African-American lawmakers, including Representative Maxine Waters of California, the powerful chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee, are leading the charge to impeach this rogue, lawless, unqualified president. On Wednesday, this past Wednesday, after Robert Mueller declined to clear Trump, three more House Republicans signed on. Well, three more Democrats signed on. Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, who you just heard in that segment from All In with Chris Hayes, who is chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, and Representative Danny K. Davis and Representative Bobby Rush of Illinois. All are veteran Democrats. Others, mindful of Nancy Pelosi's call for caution, are pushing back on their own constituents and struggling to explain House Democrats' go slow approach. Longtime Representative and member of the Congressional Black Caucus, Eleanor Holmes Norton, said, quote, it's probably safe to say that there are no Americans more ardently opposed to Trump than African Americans. Okay? And she argues that it is pointless to impeach Trump when the Republican-led Senate will convict. I disagree. Quote, there is such a huge dislike for this president that the first thing I get from them is to impeach him, end quote. She said, quote, their, quote, ardor is so great, end quote. Now, Eleanor Holmes Norton said, she said that she wrote a Facebook post last month explaining the nuances of the impeachment process. She sees her Democratic colleagues getting, quote, carried away by what their constituents are saying, end quote. Okay? She said, I remind them that we impeached a Democratic president and he was more popular than ever. Okay? But these are two, you can't compare Clinton to Trump. You can't compare Clinton to Trump. First of all, what they were accused of are two entirely different things. You can't compare at least 10 instances of obstruction of justice to Clinton lying about an affair with a White House intern. All right? Now, I want to go to, let's see, we have the clip up. Let's go to clip 5, Rachel Maddow's show. Okay? Rachel Maddow, no, hold on. Not that one. AM Joy. Where's AM Joy? We got, did I send you that clip? Hold on. Let me see. I want to go to the, did I send you, I sent you AM Joy, didn't I?
Yeah.
With Representative Clyburn. I want to go to this clip because Joanne Reed, who is brilliant, Joanne Reed corrected the record for a lot of these House Democrats, many of them members of the Congressional Black Caucus, okay, who said, what's the 2 minutes for?
2 minutes to, we didn't go to break.
We didn't go to break?
No.
Oh.
I just looked at the clock.
I didn't even realize that.
Me neither.
Okay, let's go to, can we go to break now?
Yeah, we can go to break.
Let's go to break now. When we come back, I want you to hear this interview that Joanne Reed did yesterday with Representative James Clyburn, where she corrected the record and how many of these old black Democrats don't remember exactly what happened with the impeachment of Bill Clinton. 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio, the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. My DVD lecture dealing with the history of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have that there. That's on sale now, $10. It's a 2.5-hour presentation. I go deep into the history and origins of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, things like this. And I deal with the fact that we rebuilt Black Wall Street after the massacre, which took place June 1st, 1921. We know we just commemorated the 98th anniversary of the attack on Black Wall Street. We also have it on digital download at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So we have it right on the home page. And then I will be at Wayne County Community College District Eastern Campus on Monday, June 3rd, 2019, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in the Cooper Room. The Cooper Room is right on the first level. So if you're coming in from the parking lot, you make a right. When you walk in, you just make a right, and the Cooper Room is over in the right. Director Amadeus Christ, who's the director of the fantastic documentary Out of Darkness, which deals with thousands of years of African history and African American history. He'll be showing some portions of it, especially dealing with hip-hop and conscious hip-hop, things like this. And we'll do a panel discussion also. So that's free and open to the public, 5901 Connor Street, Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College District, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Starting June 8th, 2019, we have our new online class starting up, our own new online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, 2019 edition, and that's an online course that I teach. It's 8 weeks, 16 hours. It's all online, and we'll do it live. You can ask questions. And also it's archived, so you can go back and watch it over and over again. You can watch from around the world. We'll have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. That course should be $80 for all 8 weeks. It's going to blow you away. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about the Mueller's press conference. I was getting deeper into this, explaining exactly what impeachment means, what an impeachment inquiry is. This is usually how the impeachment process starts. Read the article from New York Times, nytimes.com, how impeachment works and what you need to know about it. How impeachment works and what you need to know about it. We'll post the link here on the thread of the broadcast for that, and also read the article from the New York Times. Black voters challenge House members. Why is Trump still in office? Now, on Saturday, June 1st, 2019, on AM Joanne Reed, MSNBC, Joanne Reed interviewed Representative James Clyburn, okay? This clip is entitled Pelosi Deflects Calls for Impeachment After Mueller's Statement, okay? And Joanne Reed lays out, she corrects the history of what happened with the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Because a lot of African-American, a lot of older African-American Democrats, like Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton and Representative James Clyburn, are really misstating this, and this is laying the foundation of them being afraid to impeach this rogue, lawless president. Let's go to this clip.
Under the Trump administration, the Justice Department has blown right past ignoring congressional subpoenas and is now refusing a court order to release the transcripts of conversations between former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and the Russian ambassador in December 2016. So welcome to that. But despite this constitution-bending new thing that has almost become routine, where the Trump administration simply chooses which laws and congressional and court orders it feels like complying with, backed by the Attorney General version of Roy Cohn, what has also become a kind of new normal is that the leadership of the opposition party is weirdly calm and plainly, openly, extremely reluctant to use impeachment as a sanction against this president.
You don't bring an indictment or you don't bring an impeachment unless you have all of the facts, the strongest possible case, so that the president is held accountable one way or another in the court of public opinion or in the court of law or in the Congress of the United States.
Okay, you don't bring an impeachment unless you have all the facts. Okay. So what actual facts have we got about Trump trampling the Constitution and running roughshod over Congress and even committing potential crimes like obstruction of justice? Anything? Do we have anything? Oh, you're right. We have this. The Mueller report. The Mueller report, right here. Right here. There it is. This is the report that everyone was waiting for, that was supposed to, deliver the coup de grace to the Trump administration or the Trump presidency and restore democracy. We have this. And speaking of Robert Mueller, he came out this week and told y'all in no uncertain terms that he has done all the work he's going to do. He is going home. And also read the damn report and figure it out.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. It would be unfair to potentially accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge. Now, I hope and expect this to be the only time that I will speak to you in this manner.
So over to you, Congress, yes, or maybe no. And now here comes the tough love portion of the AM Joy Show. Robert Mueller, as respected a figure as he is and will go down in history as being, is not going to save you from Donald Trump. Mueller is gone. Even if he ultimately testifies before Congress, there is no cavalry that's waiting to descend from beyond the wall to take down the Night King. There are no elves and wizards coming to destroy the orcs and help Frodo drop the ring into Mount Doom, just to mix my vaguely Elizabethan-era fantasy TV and movie metaphors. And as for Congress, the Democratic leadership has made it clear that really no matter how far Donald Trump pushes and stretches the limits of the Constitution, no matter how many times he tells his administration to basically flush their subpoenas down the nearest White House loo, or defies court orders, and even with Republican Justin Amash providing bipartisan cover, Congress is not going to take down Donald Trump, at least not using the remedy the Constitution anticipated for an out-of-control president, impeachment. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has suggested prayer to deal with Donald Trump. She suggested for Melania Trump and the family to stage an intervention. And she and other members of House leadership have made it clear that they fundamentally believe that it should be your job, the voters in 2020, to sanction this president by denying him a second term. The Democratic leadership openly view impeachment as a waste of time unless there's guaranteed removal by the Senate, something that has never happened in American history. So that's where we are. Democrats, despite the growing clamor among their base to at least begin an impeachment inquiry, are plowing ahead with their strategy, which is to conduct a series of hearings in various committees, issuing strongly worded letters, which, once defied, will be followed by subpoenas, which, once rejected, will result in eventual court cases, which, once adjudicated and appealed, will eventually result in something that changes public opinion about Donald Trump, and then if that public opinion becomes a popular groundswell for impeachment, then it will happen, maybe. So no one is coming to save you. But the reality is that Donald Trump also has a say in all of this. And if he continues crashing through the Constitution like a bull in a china shop and defying Congress, and now even defying the courts, well, what are Democrats going to do? Joining me now is House Majority Whip James Clyburn. And Congressman Clyburn, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So I'm looking here at a letter from Congressman Adam Schiff, who is, of course, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, writing to Dan Coates, the Director of National Intelligence, about this order from Attorney General William Barr to comply with this investigation of the investigators. So Donald Trump's Attorney General, Donald Trump's White House, they're plowing forward with investigating maybe even members of the FBI. They've now defied a court order to turn over the correspondences between Michael Flynn and the Russian ambassador. They're just literally defying both you guys and the courts. So if impeachment is not the answer to that, and I think it's pretty clear that you guys in leadership don't think impeachment is the answer, what is the answer?
Well, impeachment may be the answer. I don't think that those of us in leadership are saying that impeachment is not the answer. I think from the report, from all that I've seen and heard, for the last several years, I do believe that impeachment may be the answer. Those are the grounds. Now the question then becomes, what is the proper time for us to start this process? And I think that's all that the leader, Speaker Pelosi, is saying at this point. We must take care that we do not get out in front of this process. Let's continue to do what we're doing. Let's continue to do the investigations. Let's have the hearings. Let's build the public support. Let's do what is necessary to bring the public along. And then we may reach the time to launch the impeachment inquiries. I don't think we're there yet.
Well, clearly the public agrees with you, at least according to the opinion polls, right? So that you have a plurality of voters who do support immediately beginning impeachment, at least an inquiry against this president, 37%. And this poll, I will say, I think is an impeachment and removal, which is, you don't need to combine those really, and 43% favor no action. So it's kind of close. But are you concerned, sir, that just having lots and lots of hearings, they kind of drone on and on and on. They kind of become almost sort of a miasma. It becomes sort of din, that there's this hearing over here, there's this hearing over there, that there's not a coherent narrative that the public can follow, that essentially the public will eventually tune out all these many different disparate hearings, tune it all out, and that essentially Donald Trump will win by default and just get away with it all.
Well, that is a fear that I have. But I also have a bit of experience over the years. I do recall that we had an impeachment against President Clinton. It was a very partisan process, political though it may be. And look what happened. When it came to Richard Nixon several years ago, we never had to get to impeachment, because he stonewalled, he fired people, he did things on the same order that Trump is doing, but it finally caught up with him. When Alexander Butterfield revealed that those tapes were there, and the court ordered him to produce those tapes, there we reached the time for impeachment. And that's in a bipartisan way. The Congress went to him and says, either leave or be impeached. And he left. Well, we could very well, through these hearings, come up with that smoking gun that will do for us today what those tapes did with Richard Nixon before. Well, so let's go through the process and hope that we can get there.
Well, respectfully, sir, let's take each of those two cases, because I think the analogies between Donald Trump and Richard Nixon are actually pretty close in a lot of ways. But in that instance, you had a Republican Party that was not nearly as sort of vehemently, reflexively partisan as the Republican Party of now. There aren't a lot of Republicans now that will behave the way Republicans then did. People like Lindsey Graham and others have made it clear protecting Trump is what they're doing. And then the second thing is with Clinton, what actually happened is that, Republicans lost a few seats in the House, but they held the House. They held the Senate. They then made Bill Clinton useless to Al Gore. They rendered him inert They then won the White House as well. Republicans did not pay a price for impeaching Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton was popular. Donald Trump is not popular. So is this analogy missing the point? Because Bill Clinton and Donald Trump are very different. Their popularity is very different going in. The reason that they would be impeached is very different. And the outcome for Republicans was actually pretty darn good about impeaching Bill Clinton. Good for them.
Well, they did not pay as big a price. You're right, as I would have loved to see them pay. But we did make some historical gains.
But you didn't get the House back. You got neither the House nor the Senate back. I mean, Democrats did not get back a single body, and Bill Clinton was no longer running for president. Bill Clinton just simply was not able to campaign for Al Gore. I mean, what price did Republicans pay?
Well, I think they paid a price in the presidential elections. I do believe that it was not as soon as we wanted it. I'm sorry?
But they won. I mean, they beat Al Gore.
Yes, they did, because the courts awarded it to them. We all remember what happened down in Florida. We see what happened in the last election. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. But I do believe that Trump was corrected when he said things were rigged through the Electoral College. Things got rigged. And we were subjected to the Russian influence. We were subjected to all kinds of suppressions, the kinds of things that we ought to be prepared for today.
Right,
the same thing is going to happen today if we don't get prepared.
Well, that's what I was going to make the point, because right, William Barr has essentially opened the door for it to be perfectly legal for Donald Trump to seek help again. So you have to presume, let's say Donald Trump is going to do the exact same things again. So he's going to go in with the advantages of foreign interference, an attorney general that's going to help him, voter suppression, all the things that he had in 2016. But he also is going to have not been sanctioned for the things that we know he did. You know, for the 10 instances of obstruction of justice that already have happened. And quite bluntly, sir, for defying you guys. He's literally saying, I don't care if you subpoena me. So if he goes in already feeling invincible, I'm not sure how not impeaching him alters his behavior. He's getting away with everything he's doing.
He has gotten away thus far.
I just sent you
that
the last
doesn't mean he will be getting away in the fall of the year or the first part of next year. I do believe that we are on track to getting to where we need to be, to bring the public along with us, and to even change some of the minds in the Senate. I don't know that we have to get to 2/3 of the Senate in order for the groundswell to be there that would cause Mitch McConnell and others to sit down with this president and tell him the jig is up.
Do you really think Mitch McConnell would ever do that? Do you really think Mitch McConnell will ever do that? I mean, the reality is impeachment has never resulted in removal. So impeachment is its own separate sanction. It's the highest sanction that you all in the House can put on a president. It is literally the ultimate rebuke. And that's all it's ever been. It's separate from removal. Is there any chance at all that a single Republican in the Senate is ever going to vote to convict? Can't it be its own sanction?
I don't know that you have to get to the point of voting to convict. We got to that point with Richard Nixon, and we never had to go to impeachment or a trial. I think Mitch McConnell, if the folks in Kentucky were to rise up and say, hey, guy, you have got to fulfill your responsibilities, I don't think he will lay himself on the altar of Donald Trump. I know Mitch McConnell a little better than that. I'm not a big fan of Mitch.
Was it frozen?
But I know that Mitch would never lay himself on the altar
it's frozen.
of Donald
There's 30
Trump.
seconds left. The timer's still
Okay,
going.
well, we shall see. We will continue to watch, and we really appreciate your time, Congressman James Clyburn. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that is from AM Joy, Joanne Reed. Excellent interview she did with Representative James Clyburn. That's from June 1st, 2019. You can watch that in its entirety at msnbc.com. Pelosi deflects calls for impeachment after Mueller's statement. That's on AM Joy's page on msnbc.com. All right, so you see why a lot of these old-ass Democrats need to be voted out of office? You see what? See, this lacks a backbone. This lacks a spine. And she and Joy laid out the history, because the way a lot of these old Democrats, including the black ones, some of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Representative James Clyburn, the way they are telling the narrative of the consequences of Republicans impeaching Bill Clinton is not actually what happened. Republicans really didn't pay a price. And they lost a few seats in the House. They maintained the House. They won the presidency in 2000. In the year 2000, they did not pay a price, and that is a stain. When you impeach a president, that is a stain on their record in history for eternity. It still comes up with Clinton. That's a stain on his record. Read the article from New York Times. Black voters challenge House members. Why is Trump still in office? Call your member of Congress today. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. If they don't have a spine, they need to get one. If they don't want to do their job, they should lose their job. Okay, now, we're running out of time here. I want to go to this clip here because this ties right into this. Now, this is Mark Morial talking about the state of the Urban League State of Black America 2019 report and the Russian intervention in the 2016 election and how Russians targeted the African American community. Let's go to this clip.
Monday, the National Urban League will release its annual State of Black America report, one of the most highly anticipated benchmarks for racial equality in America. This year's report focuses on recent efforts to suppress the black vote and how to combat it. Joining me now is President and CEO of the National Urban League, Mark Morial. Mark, I know you have embargoed the report till Monday morning, but give me some of the highlights that we can expect, particularly as we talk in this political season. Because one of the things I noted on your release is that in 2000, 76% of the people that voted were white. And in the last election that we project in 20, it'll be down to 66%. So the value of non-white voters and black voters have increased. Explain to me where we are in our state of Black America and the state as is juxtaposed with the state of the country in terms of
Well, first of all, Reverend, thank you for having me, and I'm proud to be first on Politics Nation to discuss this year's State of Black America report. Let me tell you the most compelling news. We highlight in this report what I call the terrible trio of voter suppression. One, the Supreme Court and its anti-democratic decisions in Shelby and Husted and Citizens United. Number two, state legislatures across America, 40 plus, that have engaged in outright efforts to make it more difficult for people, particularly people of color, to vote by eliminating early voting, by creating voter ID requirements, by putting clamps on those that want to register people to vote, like the National Action Network, the NAACP, or the League of Women Voters. And then number three, and this is most compelling, it's the Russian Federation and its Internet Research Agency. The foreign interference was designed. Mueller has not explicitly talked about this. The Senate Intelligence Committee has only mentioned it, to inject racial division in the United States of America. We will show on Monday some of the posts and some of the diabolical means used by the Russians to suppress the African American vote. They created fake personalities, wearing, if you will, a Black Lives Matter mask, who were all over the internet encouraging people not to vote. They ran an advertising campaign directed at African Americans, indicating to them that African Americans could vote from home by texting a particular number. The role of Russia in suppressing the African American vote was significant, it was far-ranging, and our report and our research partner, the German Marshall Fund, and the Brennan Center, we're going to expose it all at the National Press Club on Monday morning.
So there are many of the efforts we saw on social media and other things telling blacks don't vote, telling blacks that it doesn't make sense.
and giving misinformation was actually Russia using that to try and suppress the black vote? The Russians were actively involved. 126 million people were reached by Russians on Facebook, 73 million engagements, 1,000 videos posted. They created a person by the name of Louisa Haynes, who was a Black Lives Matter activist, a woke sister, if you will, who engaged in a long, long colloquy through social media, telling African Americans not to vote, telling African Americans that all Democratic politicians were sellouts. It was an orchestrated, diabolical, and sinister campaign. And to this point, why investigators, why the Mueller report, why no one has squarely said that what the Russians wanted to do was suppress the African American vote. The evidence is significant, the evidence is overwhelming, and the evidence is clear. And I think we've got to expose it because it remains a clear and present threat to our election in 2020.
Okay, pause it there. Thanks. Okay, so watch that in its entirety at msnbc.com. That's on Politics Nation. That clip is entitled State of Black America Report to Address Inequalities in America. State of Black America Report to Address Inequalities in America. That's from Politics Nation, May 4th, 2019. Sorry we couldn't get to that last call. Call back next week. And go to State of Black America. stateofblackamerica.org, stateofblackamerica.org. You can download the executive summary of the 2019 State of Black America report. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. I did a broadcast yesterday dealing with some of the history of Black Wall Street, so we'll try to get to that next Sunday as well. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can order my DVD lecture, the 2.5-hour lecture I did dealing with the history of Black Wall Street a few years ago, and the digital download is there also. Okay, and follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, because I do videos throughout the week where we can go deeper in some of this content. All right, we're out of time. Got to get out of here. Thanks for listening to the African History Network show. We focus on, remember, right now is corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.